7 o'clock, we'll open up the meeting of the Port of Sayus Law Commissioners Commission meeting, Wednesday, August 15th, 2018. All commissioners are present. Once again, our first item on the agenda will be a presentation by Andy, and he is here.
Yes.
Andy Johnson, who is our Realtor of record from Coldwell Banker.
Well, good evening. I brought some talking points, and I'll hand these out just to discuss for a few minutes. I think I have one for everybody here.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll give him one. I'll give him mine when I'm done. Actually, let's see. I guess that's all I have. So I'll give you mine, Dave, when I'm done. So the first sheet is just where we are now. There was a little bit of a question that came up regarding the zoning. Is everybody familiar with allowed uses in the Pacific View Industrial Park? It's basically, I mean, in a nutshell, it's everything but residential. It's commercial, it's industrial, it's wholesale, warehouse. The only part that can be residential is like a caretaker's unit or apartment for overseeing warehouses or a business. Conditionally, and that's with the conditional use. So basically, it's a non-residential planned unit development as far as what you can do. Warehouses, storage, industrial, those types of things. So I would just want to clarify that. But that the zoning is Pacific View Park District. So
Now, when you say conditional use, you can go to the city and get a conditional use for a caretaker's residence.
correct.
Is that just a simple application, or is that a hearing process?
It's a hearing process, yeah. It's and it can be 1,000 square feet maximum for a caretaker or superintendent. When it's deemed, whenever it is determined by the planning commission that it requires an on-site person.
So all you'd have to do is prove that I need an on-site person, and it's conditionally allowed.
Typically, I mean, like some of the storage places around town have, houses for the manager kind of thing. That's the idea. Okay. So the second sheet here, besides the flyer, just the talking points. It's the port has been at it a long time trying to sell the property, and we all know that. There's an appraisal that's in the file. As far as comparables, I've listed in recent years, big parcel projects. There's only been one that is sold, and that's the 22 acres. That's residential land that's now known as Fairway Estates, the west property of Sandpines Golf Course. And gosh, that sold for $275,000 back in 2013. If you do the math on that, it's about $12,000 an acre. It was pretty cheap.
Andy, was that 22 acres fully developed, or did they have to then go in and?
It was partially finished.
Okay.
Partially finished with, it had been platted,
Okay.
and there was some utility work that had been done. The streets were not done, so they went in.
But
and
some of
finished
the
it.
infrastructure was in. At
Correct.
that- Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't just a raw piece.
Okay.
Somebody had gone in and done some improvements. Yeah. So that's the only one that's closed, at least according to the multiple listing service. There may have been some private, larger parcels, but I'm not aware of any. There's a couple of active pieces. I think we spoke about it last time, the church property there at 35th and Oak, 16 acres, zoned multifamily. That's listed at 750 and not sold. And then a couple of pieces out at the north end of Florence that also haven't sold. They're zoned single family. So, it's tough because nowadays, as probably Terry could tell you, as far as utilities and infrastructure and building roads and that kind of stuff, those are big numbers. So for, at least in our neck of the woods, for something to make sense, it has to be priced attractively enough to incentivize somebody to go forward with a non-residential project, which 90% of the Florence real estate market is residential. And so you've got this little 10% piece that's either vacant land, commercial, industrial, those types of things. And so it's a really small piece of what really drives the market. So I wanted to at least talk about those things. I attached flyers on those parcels that are bullet pointed there. And so I think it's probably time to maybe take a hard look at doing a pretty good price cut to try to get it attractive enough for somebody to take on the project.
Andy, when I read over the appraisal,
Yes.
I thought it was rather, it's talking about, hey, it's gonna take lots of money to develop this property, this
Yep.
type of property is not moving, there hasn't been much. And then all of a sudden, after all these negatives, here's this
$800,000.
Yeah, $800,000. And getting back to your point about finding where the market may be, somebody, if they are gonna buy it, they're gonna probably anticipate buying and holding it because they know that the market right now isn't there to develop it full bore.
Correct.
So if I were looking at it as an investor, I'd say, okay, maybe it's gonna be worth 800,000 10 years from now, but if I'm gonna hold it for that long, I've gotta be in at 5 or 6 or whatever.
Yeah.
And anyway, those, when I was looking at it, that's where I was headed in
Yeah.
terms of.
Yeah, I think you're right on track. And also, I mean, if you just look historically at the industrial park itself on Kingwood, and it was just being started when I started in real estate, and it's taken all this time. There's still some vacant parcels out there, and it's taken 26 years, 30 years to and it's still not built out. So in the industrial commercial aspect of the market is tough. It really is.
Have you had any interest at all?
We've had a couple of inquiries from brokers, a couple of questions, but nobody.
Have you shown the property to anybody?
Yeah, yeah, we've taken a couple guys out there. Yeah.
Any comments? Come to the top of your head? Nothing?
Just not able to put all the pieces together as far as buying the land, developing the land, building on the land, and then making a profit.
And then having a market for it after you develop it.
Right. I mean, if you look at the big picture, probably one of the more needed things that's non-residential in Florence is probably storage units, whether they're, big commercial warehouses for contractors or even residential storage. I mean, because if you call around now, most of those are full with waiting lists. So, that's one possibility, but that's an awful lot of units.
Do we have one tax lot or two tax lots?
I think it's just one big one, 38.79 acres. Yeah,
That's all the tax on.
I'm pretty sure it's just one.
So if someone comes in and wants 5 acres, it's not doable.
Not without subdividing it, partitioning it.
And providing, once you do that, you can provide services.
Correct.
We have to provide the services before we can subdivide it.
Well, at least has to be accounted for. You can't just block off 5 acres and sell it off, and then there has to be some kind of plan for access and roads and turnarounds and utilities and that kind of stuff.
But if we wanted to go ahead and make it into 5 or 8 or 10 parcels, you can start at the beginning and you just carry it right on through as you sell them. So
Sure. Yeah.
I mean,
That's
that's how you do that. You don't do it all at once. You sell 10 acres, you just go ahead and you have that involved into the whole system. But can we have that broke out and do that? Or how do we do that?
Does the city allow that kind
Yeah,
of?
see, that's what I want. I'm not saying about developing them down there.
You're talking about a sequential development.
Yeah,
what you're talking
yeah, I mean,
about.
just like we did in the subdivision, I used to do 1,500 homes at one time, and this road to be extended. You sell this acre right here, and the guy buys it, and say, okay, it costs this much for the infrastructure to here, and you do the curb gutter sidewalk on both sides, you equal them up, and then you'd stop there to be developed at a future date. But see, this way, I mean, you can start selling or whatever you wanna do. I mean, but first of all, you gotta have it subdividable, I guess, is what you're saying.
Well, I think the property is dividable.
It is.
We just need to bear the cost of a plot map. We would have to
Surveying
do,
work,
yes,
yeah.
we would have to lay it all out. But at this point here, we've held this property for 11 years.
11.
It's real confusing on what our cost is, but I still firmly believe, reading through that, it's $250,000 was our cost.
Originally.
Yes, and it's real confusing because it's, and Dave, you'll attest to this, it talks about $489,000 invested by the port. I think that was work done by the airport.
Oh.
Improvements, they pushed their sand over onto our property, and they got paid to do that. So they put that as an improvement to our property. So it's very confusing, but to my knowledge, Dave, do you agree that we still have only have the 250 invested?
That's all
Plus
that
the
I
interest
see.
on the notes that
Yeah,
we put.
and the interest on the
Yeah,
notes.
You're talking about the history, once we acquired the property, because I looked at that and there's like allocation costs on what I saw, and I don't know if those costs were actually realized or.
No,
You
that's
see
what
what I
I'm
mean? It's
alluding to.
confusing.
It is
Right.
real confusing.
Yeah.
If you read that, it says $489,000. Well, I know we paid $250. We got credit. That was all done under county ownership, and the county said, well, you've already got this much into it. Which we
So
didn't.
they took the airport
It's not-
sand and put it out on that sand.
Yes, and then they paid the contractor, the county paid their portion of it, because the county owned it at that time.
So at that point in time, it came as an asset to the,
Yes, it was like, that was a selling point for the county to sell it to us. It's like, oh, we've already done this improvement.
Did we buy it or was it gifted?
gift.
Well,
That's-
$250,000.
Yeah.
No,
Do
we
pay
bought it.
do we pay taxes on it?
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. I heard some
$200 a
rumor
month
that maybe
or a
we
year.
didn't.
How much?
Taxes are.
22, 40 something.
My problem with understanding
It is
is
ready.
where we are with it. I don't understand how deep we're in it and.
$250,000 plus
$1,000.
interest.
That's all
Plus
I
the
can
carry for
see
the
that we're
interest.
into it is for 250.
For the
plus
note that we've
interest.
had on it since we've owned it.
Taxes are $22,242.51 a year.
That's on a different parcel.
Oh.
This is a different one.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think the port pays any property taxes.
I didn't think they did either,
It's
but I'm
zero.
not sure of that.
Zero right here.
Yeah, I thought.
Oh, it's on the back of that
So
print.
there's
Yeah.
no, so basically our
If we
cost,
lease it
what's
to
that?
We only pay on things that we rent out,
Good point.
so
Thank
we,
you.
the buildings, you know,
Yeah.
every year we do.
So
We got
a strategy for finding what it would take to generate some interest in it. I mean, we spitballed some things last meeting about dropping the price, holding on to it for 6 or 8 or a year, and if there's no interest, move it down again and try to find out who, again, whoever's gonna buy it is probably gonna be a buy and hold for a future development. Because we already have industrial land that's been developed that isn't selling, so I think it's a pipe dream to think that somebody's gonna develop a full bore and then turn around and think they can sell it at a profit.
I'd like
So-
to take the floor for just a second. I think alluding back to what Andy said, if we were to develop that into 5 or 10 acre parcels, let's make it, we're gonna have to spend money to get our money back. It's either that or give it back to the bank. Which I'm not opposed to that. Dee, you want it?
No.
You think so? No one's gonna come in here and buy 40 acres for $500,000, half of our cost, to put up a set of storage buildings.
Right.
You know, that's just too much land for them. But if we spent the money to get that into 5 or 8 or 10 acre parcels,
Yeah, make it even numbers.
yeah, whatever, you know, would have 8 5-acre parcels, and
Yeah,
I think we
yeah.
need to spend money to make money. Andy, do you agree?
Well, and you'd have a better opportunity of selling, whatever size lots for 100 or 120,000 than, 800,000. There's more guys out there that could do it for their own vision on a couple acres or 5 acres to do their own thing, much like the current industrial park. the lots aren't that big, but I would imagine if you had some attractive lots out there for somewhere between 90 and 120,000 that were 5 acres or something like that, that you'd have a pretty good shot at that. You have better probabilities of selling than what we have
And that would
currently.
be plus infrastructure.
Mhm.
Whoever
Yeah.
buys it has to pay. for
Yeah.
it.
Right, plus infrastructure, you gotta put that in there. They would have to pay for the infrastructure at the end of that property. And you gotta start right off the end of the cul-de-sac, you can't start at the back.
Right.
Well, they could if they wanted to.
Well, yeah, but they'd have to pay for everything going
That's
into it.
right.
Yeah.
But this would
I've done it.
depend on planning and the zoning ordinances allowing us to do the
That's
sequential.
just it, I think that's the main thing, see if we can do it to begin with, and then go from there, or else drop the price, and whatever you guys wanna do.
Zoning is something you can't alter. What's that process look like?
Well, it's a bit, any change in zoning is a tall task. A conditional use is the easiest variance, but to downzone from Pacific View Industrial, say all the way to something that's even like residential or multifamily, I think would be next to impossible.
City has told us they don't wanna do it.
Right.
Well, the city has told me in my conversation with Wendy, it would be very expensive because we would have to do the long-range plan for the city. We'd have to pay to have that whole study done again to include our property in the long-range plan. And it's cost ineffective.
Sure.
So I think, but I've said all along, a 5 acre parcel there will sell. There's people out there that have 125,000. They don't have a $500,000 and then have to take on 40 acres.
Right.
Well, they can do put one storage building on each acre,
Right.
you know?
I agree. Yeah.
So,
Cause
How much
storage
is it
right
gonna-
now, I mean, storage, you can get, what, $1,500 a month out of some of those buildings and everything, I mean, they can make their, recoup
It's
their money.
50 to 75 cents a square foot
Foot, yeah.
per month.
do you have a suggested route we can take? Do we need to hire someone, a planner?
Well, it would probably take some professional assistance, you know, somebody, a local surveyor, to get started. Somebody like that, you know, Wabi, Ward, I don't know, at least to give some advice on how to get started.
But shouldn't we first settle the question? I know what Craig's saying. I like the idea of doing a sequential build out, what he's talking about. But I'm sure that that requires the approval that complies with the city's development process. And I haven't seen that, but I'm not,
Well, I think by what I
Well, we
went
can
through
ask
trying to
them.
develop my property, I mean, you're gonna have a dunes overlay, I mean, it's gonna take a year, 18 months to
Yep.
get it done.
Yep.
I'll guarantee that, 'cause they put
Well-
a house in some of these places.
We do not lose our shovel ready though, do we?
It's a good question, I don't know for sure.
If we
there's a
change the
$5
zone,
fine.
we
So I
would.
don't,
I'm in a meeting right now, I'll call you back after I get out of here.
I can't remember, maybe it was.
Yeah, I'm fine.
We were told at one time.
Well, we need to,
The port meeting.
there's just too much, there's a lot of
Okay.
unanswered questions.
There's a lot of, if you're gonna leave your shovel ready and everything, you might as well lower the price of selling
Part of the
it,
decision.
don't you think?
What was the intention of the port when it acquired the asset?
Yeah.
RV park.
I wasn't on that. Was anybody here?
The reason I ask that is, why do I sense we're, pardon the expression, hell-bent to sell it?
Because right
You
now,
got
we're gonna
carrying
renew our
costs.
loan for
Right.
$250,000.
Right.
The property is only
So, I
worth
mean-
$500,000, why do we wanna keep paying a loan for $250,000? We don't have the funds to develop it.
But it sounds like we're kind of trying to figure out a way to kind of start to develop it to sell it. I mean,
That's the only way we're gonna get out of it gracefully, Craig, is my opinion.
we still need to direct staff, which we've talked about it for 2 months now. I wanna know the cost. I'm not making any decision I'm not voting for anything till I see the cost, the money, the cash that the Port of Siuslaw has in that project, period. I don't, 250 is not what we have in it. I wanna see
You want
what
the
we
full
have in it.
burden
I'm
cost.
talking appraisals, all the stuff that we pump into that since we got it. None of us know that answer. So that's the first thing we need to know.
Did you get the emails from staff? Did you have a chance, I don't know if you got them or?
No, about the cost?
Yes.
No.
That's
So
what I
we-
was
we have
alluding
a
to. I
we
thought
have
you
a-
gentlemen had that.
Has that been determined?
Yeah, we've still been trying to figure it out, and we're,
But you sent me an email with
Yeah.
the information to try to decipher, and I thought
Yeah.
you guys had the
No.
same
No,
email.
I saw it on Kelly's desk.
Okay.
Anyway,
I
that,
asked about
that
it.
has to be determined. I mean, I don't know. If we drop the price to $400,000, maybe we're gonna make 50 grand. I mean, I need to know
No, I
that
agree.
first. I'm willing to drop the price. We're not gonna sell it at that price. I don't
No.
wanna pay the bank. I want somebody else to pay them, but we're gonna have to and keep on sucking us dry on it.
So
As
what-
far as the
so what do-
development,
what
as
do we-
far as the development, we, you know, I don't care if we develop it, but we don't have any money. We gotta, I mean, you know what our priorities are and our projects are. As far as I'm concerned, the quicker we can dump that and get our money out of it, the better off we are. But there could be some pretty expensive cost involved in what we're talking about, professional fees, dealing with the city, whoever else we have to with land use planning. But that's a decision or maybe a work session that we have to deal with.
Do we want to table this for a work session?
Yeah,
Well, I think we need to
but-
know what.
but there is
Mike's
one
saying,
action
I
item
understand,
that-
I mean, there's no reason to go ahead and spend a lot of money on the other stuff if we can make money by selling at a lesser price, because you gotta take into consideration all the people that are involved in the port, you know, because it's public funds.
Yeah, but the fundamental question, it goes back to the city.
Oh.
I like what you're talking about a sequential development, but if that's not allowed under the city rules, then we're dreaming.
Well, they should just be able to tell us yes or no.
That's right, so I think without spending any money,
Yeah, if they say no, I mean, we just go ahead.
staff can call up Wendy and say, hey, is this allowed under your rules?
And if not, we just find out what it's worth, and what we got into it, and put a price on it.
So I'd like to
Bite the
approach it, not just staff. I think that we need to have them come here.
Okay.
I think we need to have a work session and have the city here. I don't want, no, that's too much of a burden as far as I'm concerned to put on staff.
Okay.
Well, yeah,
I
they got
think
other
the
things to
board-
do.
I think the commission needs to listen and talk and ask the questions.
Yeah,
that
we've
we're
talked
asking
about,
right now
okay.
to the city.
I
Mike,
agree.
I'd like to appoint Bill and one other commissioner to go meet with Wendy.
well, that's fine. I
I mean, I'd like to, but.
Yeah, I've dealt with Wendy, I've dealt with her for a couple of years now, so. We're on a first name basis, I'm not saying it's good, no. Wendy
Does
and
it start with an A?
Wendy and I are fine. Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Would you like to take that? I think you ought to
Yeah.
pick another commissioner.
Yeah, Craig,
Craig, would you be willing to
Brandon.
help him with that?
Yeah, I guess.
or Zelinski, either one of them.
Brand, I can do it, cause this man gotta work for a living, I'm retired. I mean, all I do is fish.
All you do is goof off for a living.
Yeah.
Mike, is that all right for you? If we,
Yeah, that's the first step. They come
Yeah,
back and we're
yeah.
satisfied with it. I mean, you know, I
With
need
the
to be
answer.
satisfied. in terms of-
We gotta know yes or no,
because
and
it's-
that's it.
yeah,
And then
It's
yeah.
just not that simple.
Yeah.
I don't wanna waste any more of our time talking about something we have no information on.
good.
Yeah.
Well,
Super, we will do that.
You'll set up the meeting?
I'll set up the meeting.
Andy, I think we'll do that. I think we'll set up a meeting with the city and see if we can divide it. In the short term, do you have a recommendation? Should we consider lowering it to $5.95? Is
Well-
that gonna do anything?
It might. I mean, it certainly isn't gonna hurt. I mean, that's a number that has kind of been tossed around and, you know, somewhere in that 500 range. Whether it's 575 or 595 probably won't make a whole lot of difference, but I think it's at least, it shows good faith on the port's part as far as, you know, being a little more realistic of today's market.
But I agree with Commissioner Mike. Before we do that, Mike's an excellent point. We need to know what the full burden cost is before we go about setting the price. I would, so step at a time.
So what are we looking at for price? $250 we know is cash out of pocket. Correct? 11 years ago or whatever,
Yes, sir.
and then all we're doing is interest at the bank.
we have an appraisal, and we can't tell if there's any development costs that the port is taking on with it or not yet.
If you read the paperwork, which I will see that you guys have the paperwork tomorrow, it's real confusing.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's good.
Because it's basically the county trying to sell us the property and saying, I think they're pounding themselves in the chest and we've got this much into it, the port's getting this much economic advantage for only $250,000. Have you read the papers, Andy?
Well,
Is
okay,
it in that book?
It's
so,
No, it's hidden. We
okay,
haven't
wait
seen
though,
it yet.
wait.
Yeah.
We've had an auditor, we've had a state audit
Yeah.
every year. Let's go back to when we bought it, and let's bring that forward and see what the balance sheet shows with the auditor, okay?
Okay.
Because those costs should be capitalized and not expensed in
Right.
terms of what we put into that property. So let's go back and start doing that, because we're paying people to track that and to do the proper thing in terms of how to allocate costs, to capitalize those costs to that piece of property. I mean, when that's not an expense, that's an increase in the asset cost is what it is, in the asset basis. And that should be shown on our audit. So let's start there,
How often do we audit it?
huh?
Every year?
Yeah, every year.
Every year.
So we'd go back to the year we purchased it and just start moving forward from there.
And that was about 10 years ago,
11. Yeah.
11 years ago.
Why are you only paying interest on?
We're not, we're
No.
paying principal and interest.
Principal and interest.
Well, that isn't what you said earlier. Okay.
Well,
I didn't understand that. That blew my mind away.
I think the actual, somewhere around 209.
206.
206 is a balance now.
banker.
But it still costs us $250. Kelly, did you understand that? Go back to the first year, okay? Andy, I.
Do you have it?
I think you've answered.
Sure.
You helped us
Okay.
beat each other up.
If you want me to help out with the work session or be involved, I sure can be. I can attend meetings
Andy,
and
would
take
you,
notes.
would you like to attend the meeting when we meet with Wendy? Would you be able?
Sure, yeah,
That
yeah,
might-
just give
that
me
would
a
be great.
day's notice or
That
so,
way you
yeah.
can get the big picture as
Yeah.
we get the picture.
Okay,
That's all we need to know, is yes or no, and that's it, and then see what the final cost is, then we go from there.
okay.
Yes or no, or the various avenues that we can take, and that's what we'll explore.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Next on the schedule, Dee Osborne, Banner Bank. Loan options.
There she is. After that.
Well, I'm not really the loan officer, but, anyway, Dee Osborne, I'm the, relationship banker for the port. When Sayus originally did the loan, I was not involved in that process, so I'm not sure the motive. But the second renewal was decided that the port wanted an amortization with a balloon payment, and that balloon payment is now due, coming up. So we've given the port options to refinance it, amortize it out, just make it a straight payoff loan. When Banner bought Sayus, they moved commercial loans into our commercial banking center in Eugene. And the port loan was assigned to a commercial loan officer, Bill Reinert, who is actually will handle the renewal. So he has, if you have specific questions about rate, what it's tied to, things like that, Bill will be your guy. They do want to renew it. We just need to know what you guys want. I've been talking with Kelly about I think probably the motive, Bill, if you know more than I, correct me, was that they did an amortization with the balloon because they thought they would do something with the property, either
We thought
develop
we'd sell it.
or sell it.
Yeah.
And so they just wanted to, but that's why the principal is not decreased more, because it was amortized 15, a balloon in 5. So,
Was it 15 or 25? I thought it was a 25-year amortization.
oh, possibly. It was amortized out, but with a balloon payment.
Gotcha.
So,
So what we proposed at this point is a fully amortized option of either 10 years fully ammed or 15, depending on what you want.
As opposed to 25?
Correct.
And why, so 25 is not an option?
Well, you've already paid 10 years on it,
Okay, so,
it doesn't make sense to re-amortize it over another 25 years.
So we
It would just
take-
cost you- it would just
carry
be-
it all out to the 25.
It would just cost you
after-
that much
yeah.
more money. The payment wouldn't change dramatically, because you've already paid it down.
what interest rates you guys thinking about at this point?
we sent, do you have that, Kelly, that proposal that I
Quoted
sent?
three and
That's fine.
3 and a quarter.
3.25, I think.
That's cheap money.
Pretty good.
Well, it's 3 and a quarter because the port is a tax exempt.
I understand.
You know, it's a bank qualified tax exempt loan, so we don't pay federal income tax on the interest earned. That's why we can
Come down to
come down on, you know,
2
below
points
mar-
down there.
a below market
And
rate.
that interest would be locked in for the 15 years?
No,
or
it would be locked in for 10 years.
Okay.
Isn't that what I said, Dee? We did 10 years?
I didn't bring the
And then
proposal,
we,
but I
and if you go
emailed you,
15
Kelly.
years, then it's at the 5-year FHLB index plus 25 basis points. So you'd have one
I
adjustment,
think it was 5.
was it
I think
5?
your adjustment was two, fixed for 5, and possibly 2 adjustments over the
Okay.
15-year amortization.
I wish
think
I
is
had
what
that
we
with me,
sent.
but-
But we can see what you want and go back with it. When I was talking with Kelly and Bill, this is what would be a desirable thing for the bank, is fixed for 5, and what is what we normally do, but,
The fixed for 5 would be at 3 1/4.
Correct.
We got 2% after that for,
2% after that?
no.
What kind
Bill,
of-
did
what
we
kind
give a
of-
fee structure?
Yeah, is there any fees involved in it?
I think I quoted half a point. I mean, not a
Okay,
huge,
we'll let you
it's
switch.
$1,000.
Let you switch.
Yeah.
Well, you just need to
So
tell
we'll
us what
just-
you want. I mean,
we'll just
usually,
talk about it.
when we get a loan request, this is what we'd like. What can you provide? Well, we didn't really have that, so we just kind of said, this is what we're proposing, amortize it over the remaining 15 years at this rate, at this fee, and then carry the loan out,
When is it due?
It's December.
December.
Okay, all right.
So we have time.
Let's talk about it next month.
And the beauty of
Or
it
I'd
is
like
it's-
to talk about it.
the loan-
I'm
the
not-
loan
we haven't
balance is low.
Decided whether we're gonna pay off any of that loan.
see something definite.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What's going on in there.
What was that, Dave?
We talked about paying off a portion of that loan. and
You could reduce the principal, amortize the remaining.
We even gave you
Yeah,
a
but
way
at
off
3
the-
1/4, why spend the money for 3 1/4%? I mean,
I wanna
that's-
say, I wanna keep our capital funds
Yeah.
low.
At 3%, I mean, 3 1/4%. I
'Cause we got
keep the
things we
fund in
gotta-
there.
So
That's pretty cheap money.
what I would say, though, is that rates are changing.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the earlier we make a decision on the renewal and take care of it would probably be in the port's best interest.
I'd-
No, they aren't going down.
They're
I'd
not
do
going
that
down.
next Meeting after I see the.
We would like to look at your proposal.
That's fine, just let me
We-
know, shoot me an email when you guys are ready to move and would like it for an offer or what you want, and we'll see if we can meet it.
Can we get one at 10 and one at 15 and see what the payments are, and hopefully it's similar to what we're paying, maybe?
Is that what you showed? You showed the 2 different breakouts?
No, we did a 15-year
Did
amortization.
15, because they did.
Because that's
They
the
already had 10
remaining.
on it, that'd take it out to the 25.
What if you did a 7.5 and had them go with the 3 1/4?
Well, that's just gonna, that's, if you're talking about 7.5 fully am, I mean, that's just gonna bump the payment, get about double the payment.
Right.
This, I don't want to lose it.
Thank you, Dee.
Thank you.
Kelly, we'll be in touch with you.
That's
We,
perfect.
we need to see your proposals, and I think at our next, we're gonna have a work session before the next meeting in September.
We should be able to.
Well, we did send the proposal.
I know, okay.
Okay.
Kelly needs to share it with us.
Oh, okay.
So,
We weren't sure whether, because we had talked about it in previous, when we were in the process of doing our budget, that there may be a possibility of paying a portion of it off. So nobody has directed us.
Shall we discuss that now? I don't want to consume our capital resources.
is that your opinion, Mike?
No, not necessarily, but that's, I mean, there's, I think there's a lot more to the story than, I mean, we need to talk about that, what that means. You know, what, if we talk about 75,000, are we talking about what, did we budget for that this year? Didn't we budget 75,000 for
I
that?
think it was 100.
100, yeah.
Okay. We may have it available.
Well, do a lot for our payment.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, yeah.
Well, okay, let's do this then. Let's meet with Wendy, see if it's feasible to develop it, and then we'll see if we want to, feasible development, you want to lower the price. Why spend 100,000 right now if you think you can spend it, if you take all that? You know,
That's a good point.
there's 3 options right there. Meet with Wendy and then go with the other one. I mean, I don't believe in spending $100,000 to buy a loan down when we don't need to. if you're gonna put it for sale, you're gonna drop the price down to $575, say, why spend $100 and then all of a sudden, I mean, you're gonna get it back, I realize that, but.
That's why we need a bunch of answers, you know, we're just
Yeah.
kinda chasing our tail here.
Right.
Yeah, we're going in circles right now.
Dee, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, we need us.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thanks for giving it.
Public comment. Anybody signed up?
Okay. Dorothy Gray.
You're up. Hi.
Hi. How are
Dorothy's
you?
already had a public comment.
She's been commenting all night.
I'm sorry, but no, I am. I'm interested in it. I don't understand. The 11-year, I didn't know you bought it 11 years ago. I'm saying, what are they talking about? But you know, it started to fall in place. But if they're talking, they're gonna give you 5 years at 3 1/4.
It was, yeah, 5 years at 3 1/4, and then 0.5% after that.
Okay, but why not go for 7.5 years at 3 1/4 and then take your bonus after that? Go for as much as you can
Because on
get.
commercial loans, they do the 5-year.
Yeah.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't do commercial loans. Anyway, okay, I wanna talk about the docks, Dave. I know you got a grant to have it cleaned out. But the docks, when you get to F-Dock, has been this
Excuse
way.
me. The grant that we got is for dredging the
Dredging.
mouth of the river.
The mouth of the river. Okay, then let's get to the docks.
Okay.
And we're getting to F-Dock.
And we are in the process of just last week had a
No, I
bathymetric
got all
survey
the
done.
files.
We're on a list for dredging, but, we can't do anything at this point. There's an actual in the water work window that we even have to wait for to do.
The fish are
any
running
dredging.
through it.
So, it's something that we're in the process of.
Wait a minute, what did you say? You have to wait for a fish?
No, we have to make sure that we're dredging when you're allowed to work in the water.
Okay, but you're going to say, we're coming in to fish now,
Mhm.
as a fisher person.
I
I'm coming
know
in and I wanna
exactly
put
what
my
you're
boat in
saying.
there, and I can't get to my dock, cause I'm not walking on a dock that's like
I
that.
know, it's.
But why isn't it done prior? Now, you've had since January?
It's all about funding. It's all
Oh, well,
about the money.
I know funding, but the fishermen are coming in here and we're not donating, we're renting from you at a good amount of money.
Yes.
What's the cost of the projected cost of that pumping?
We're thinking possibly, I don't have the actual numbers yet back from the bathymetric
Mm-hmm.
survey, but just off the top of my head, possibly about $400,000.
That's why we can't do it, that's what
Okay.
we're up against. That's-
Dorothy,
can't-
we're still paying off the loan for, I believe we have a $400,000 balance from the last time we dredged it 10 years ago.
It was-
Okay, well, we used to have logs behind the dock,
Mhm.
and the logs kept the dock in balance.
Yeah, we've
But we've changed that now.
We've gained a lot more sediment than.
Yeah, but if the
even
logs
last
had been
year.
there, you wouldn't have had that much
No,
sediment.
not necessarily.
Yeah, it's.
Not necessarily.
We've all taken notice of it, and we're all concerned about it. Everybody here is concerned about it, and we are definitely making an effort.
Okay, that's what I had to know, you know. Thank you.
And even if the money is granted to us, we cannot dredge until after the runs are done. You cannot work in the
Oh,
water
well, the
right now.
salmon runs are done.
Yeah, all
Oh,
the
yeah.
fish runs. I mean, we cannot
That's
do it.
why I
We
said,
don't
why
even go
couldn't it
touch
be
that
done
right
now.
earlier, you know, when they
December,
weren't running?
November, December.
Yeah,
And they'll get it done as soon as they can. If they can't get it done this year, and when the salmon runs start again, they'll have to wait until next year. I mean, it's just an ongoing thing up and down this coastline.
We're trying.
It's a priority.
okay, that's what I wanted to know, thank you.
It is a priority.
And we've got to apologize for what you have to put up with, but it is what it is, and we're doing our best to see if we can get on top of it.
Well, I know Terry was out there one day and he was trying to back flush it out, you know, so the dock would right itself, you know.
Well,
so
we
that
get these
you could-
minus tides, it's gonna even be worse on you.
Oh, yeah,
I
well,
mean, we had a week of minus tides, so.
Yeah.
Week of minus tides.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, I know. And now look at the high tide right now, so you're not like that now.
No, I'm not, but when I wanna get
Just
my
walk out
boat
there
in the
when
dock,
it's
it's like that, you know.
Next week, early in the morning, it'll be just right.
Not me.
The tides change.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Approval of the agenda?
We have one more.
Oh, we do? I'm sorry.
Tom Champlin.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Come on, how did you get up?
Gentlemen, I'm glad to be here tonight. I've been coming here for 13 years. I missed last year because of illness. But anyway, I want to get to the point of, is there cameras in the storage sheds? What we had this last,
There
Three.
are no cameras in the storage shed. We have cameras strategically placed throughout
the storage
property.
area?
Yeah.
Okay. I was fortunate, somebody told me my motor was stolen, but then I found out it wasn't stolen.
Yeah.
Okay, but I had a lot of friends that had it stolen, and if they had cameras inside, you don't have cameras inside the sheds?
Well,
Have any?
I'd rather not discuss this in an open
Okay,
meeting.
okay. Boat, let's see, down at space number 12, there's always 4 or 5 boats parked out there. Do they have to pay a certain amount of storage, or do they park for free?
Where's that?
Down on the waterfront, number 12, where Bernie's at. Then from there, there's always about 3 or 4 boats parked there.
You're allowed 1 vehicle per site, and then we charge a fee for each additional vehicle that's parked in overflow parking.
Okay, so the guys that park down there, they take their boat down for the day and bring it back, they don't have to pay anything?
They should be, as far as I know. If they're parked in
If
overflow.
they don't have moorage,
Yeah.
if they don't have moorage, they're charged for an extra considered vehicle.
Oh, you're talking about the
For an
RV
extra
parking
unit.
space.
Yeah, yeah.
Were you talking about the tag on the trailer?
My biggest thing I wanted to bring up is life jackets. I think you should have a sign down that all kids under 9 years old have to have a life jacket before they go through the gate, because some kid fell off the water here a couple of weeks ago.
I think that is posted, isn't it, David?
No, there's nothing down there that says anything about life jackets.
It is posted over on the boardwalk, but, that's a very good point, Tom.
Yeah.
If it's not posted
Yeah.
out here, I'll definitely get.
We got plenty of life jackets, we can put them out there.
Oh, I was gonna give you some.
Oh, no, we got plenty.
Okay.
See, over here, we have them on that one. I don't know about the lockup in there.
No, there's no life jackets down there.
And the fish station.
Yeah. Next thing is the cleaning station down there. It's really bad as far as I'm concerned. And the only way I can think to take care of it would be to do something to charge people who are not registered here in the port. If cleaning down there, I think they should charge something. Put a lock on down there, and if you want to clean your fish and stuff here, you have to go into the port here and pay a fee to clean your stuff down there, because it's a pig pen down there.
What you're saying is people bring their catch from off of port property, come in here and clean
Right,
their fish.
right.
I've seen that too.
Yes. Not only the one by the boat ramp and by the nice one we built about 3 or 4 years ago. It's a pig
Is the
pen.
boat
down-
ramp still operational, David?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been improved.
Yeah.
I just widened that one.
Yeah.
I built this one.
We have
That's
started,
nice.
we have started getting a lot of
This needs to be
activity
cleaned.
with people fishing, and the garbage cans are starting to get a little bit stinky. We've now had the garbage company change garbage cans also on a regular basis. And so we're hoping that's gonna eliminate some of that problem with the stink, that it's hard to, and we're really short-staffed here.
Oh, yeah.
And we're
Oh, yeah.
with
Yeah.
six-
Understandable.
Basically 6.5 employees, where normally we have 9 or 10.
So what's going on with the new cleaning station?
It's just hard for the people aren't cleaning up
No, they're not.
behind themselves.
And they're
Bill,
filthy.
I built the damn thing.
Yeah, I know.
I built it. and it was beautiful for a couple of years.
Yes.
It still is pretty.
Oh, it
It's
is.
just, I could go over there tomorrow morning and I could bring my own steam cleaner down there and I'd be more than happy to do it, because I'd have nothing else to do. And I would steam clean it, but by the come tomorrow night, the next night, the crabbers are the worst.
Yes, they are.
And they are bad. I mean, if they just take care of themselves and then flush it down, I mean, that's why they have holders. No, it's people.
Oh, yeah, I understand that, yeah.
When you say crabbers, is it the public crowd?
Yeah, in the public coming out of a river.
I have had staff clean that
Oh,
several
I know.
times.
Oh, I know, Dave, I know.
they have.
I know for a fact.
Yeah.
As many people as we have coming in here, I
We
bet
have a
there's.
sign up that says we don't have a maid, clean up after yourself.
Yeah, that wouldn't even help. You don't wanna know what I call people like that, so, I mean, so.
The last thing I would like to know is I heard something about development from B12 on the port, on the
The sea
front
road.
side, the B row. They're gonna run it all the way out.
No, we're working on the Sea Row erosion project along Sea Row, but we have no plans for anything
Okay.
else at this.
Other than that, I think the port is being run very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
Did you need approval? That's where we're going now, isn't it?
approval of the
Thank you.
agenda by consent.
Anytime.
Anybody like to add anything to the
I have
agenda?
no
tonight?
modifications.
Approval of minutes by consent for the work session and the regular meeting on 7/18 of 18.
I have no modifications.
Any modifications? None being heard, it's approved by consent. We'll have Kelly give us a presentation of financials.
Okay, so checks.
Thank you, folks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
See you next week, maybe. Oh, no.
No, next month.
Next month.
You're welcome, Kelly. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Checks paid for July was $69,115.19. On the occupancy report, since we took out hiker biker, that will no longer be on that report. We have put in 3 sites, 81, 82, and 83, and that started 7:30, and they've probably been about 70% capacity so far. And we've got people calling back and specifically asking for them. It's been a big hit. So hiker bikers, we've only had we get 2 groups a year that come through, true hiker biker groups, and so we've been putting them behind the office. But they're not on a Hercules system, so it's not really any way of tracking it. That's why that's gonna come off the occupancy report. That's all I have for information.
See, the hiker biker's not on the Hercules system, is that what you said?
There's only 2 spots now for a hiker biker on there, because we took out the other hiker biker area
Yeah.
out there. So we can do the groups, but you can only put 6 people in one site per the Hercules system for the hiker biker. So there's only 2 areas, and that's the 2 groups that we have a year coming in.
Okay. So.
It wouldn't be accurate.
Anybody else that we rent to, then we don't track them through the Hercules?
They would rent a water electric site or a dry camping site. They would take a site,
Okay.
not have hiker biker technically anymore.
Do you follow that, Mike?
No, I'm sorry, I don't, I'm still.
If we have a hiker biker group come in, they're just gonna take a regular campsite. They don't have a special area.
If it's the groups that are coming in, that usually have 8, 16, 20 people,
Uh-huh,
we're putting them out here back behind the office.
okay.
Is
In an
where we're
undeveloped
putting them.
site.
Right.
And then we're just doing a 1 lump sum for that group on the Hercules
Gotcha.
line. But if somebody comes in off the street.
2 or 3
and-
people that are biking, come in off the street and would like to camp.
in the camp, then they would get just a normal RV site.
So when you do the stats, and it'll show an RV site being used, for the
Most-
same price,
No,
a hiker biker price?
No, they would take a site and they have to pay for the RV site.
Oh, okay,
So normally dry camping, the 2770, that's what they would pay for.
okay.
So basically, we've done away with the hiker-biker rate.
Basically for their special site, and we're just putting them out behind there. And that helps a lot with the transients, because we get a lot of people that say they're hiking and say they're biking, and so that they want the $8 rate, when technically they're not.
Cheap.
And so making them get an RV site and paying more, that kind of dissuades them.
Any other items?
Don't have
Pretty,
anything else.
pretty dry. I noticed you paid $1,200 and some dollars for C-Row. Was that to Aiken?
That was to the Massey, that his subcontractor, Tyson Massey. It's his subcontractor that we paid.
Aiken subcontractor?
How does Aiken hire a subcontractor?
He's used them several times now.
For what?
I can send you a copy of the bills.
I would like to have them.
They're not coming from Aiken, they're coming from the
They're
other
coming
guy.
from this
No,
Tyson Massey.
that was for the bathymetric survey,
Yeah, okay.
The what?
the bill that you just showed me.
That's one of them.
Oh, okay.
That's not all of them. I think.
Yeah, I've never heard of this Tyson Massey.
Yeah. I'll get those bills for you and I'll send them over to you, so you can look at them.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Okay.
So we have approval of financials by consent. New business, commercial mortgage definition. This is an item I wanted to put on the schedule. When we passed this, it was kind of, you go to section 8 in your folder. This is the resolution we passed. The resolution to clarify the meaning of commercial vessel. My problem with this resolution is item number 4, a historic vessel is defined as any vessel which is at least 50 years old. That's the last thing we really want at this port, is a bunch of 50-year-old boats, whether they're historic or not, because those are the boats that can't get insurance, have no power, have rot, they're gonna sink. And here we are, we're trying to give them a commercial rate. It'd be my intention, I would like to, I'm not sure how to do it, to change this resolution to eliminate the historic vessel off of this.
You can tell us what you want, and at the next meeting, we can make a resolution that we can adopt with the vote.
Or is there a tighter description, Terry?
Well,
What's,
Eliminate number 4.
And parts of 5.
yeah, are there ports that actually encourage and have historic vessels of interest, or are we just talking about old boats, Terry? I'm not sure what the motivation is.
This definition was put on here by a previous manager who thought he was doing us a favor by including Walt's boat in commercial because it was over 50 years old. He didn't realize Walt has a permit on his boat. He's a commercial crabber. So he thought, oh, I'll appease the commission. And I'm characterizing this a little bit, but that's pretty much was it, wasn't it, David?
I remember, the definition is what I think everybody struggled with, when it was put in that, the commercial rate is subject to the approval of the port manager.
Well, that's not.
That's what we struggled with, and this was actually a definition that he proposed that the Coast Guard goes by for their definition of commercial vessels. And at the time, we did adopt this, and I think it's a mistake also.
The item 4, David, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, because we're running into that problem right now where somebody is claiming to fall under that historical vessel status, yet they're not actually a fishing boat or anything, and so they're trying to get away with recreational insurance now. because they're not actually commercial fishing vessel. And so the insurance is even different. With our recreational, it's $100,000 liability and $100,000 wreck removal. With a commercial fishing vessel, it's $250,000 and $250,000 with a $1 million pollution policy. And I think if you're gonna have a vessel of that age in this port, regardless, they should have to carry the commercial vessel insurance standard that we have. But
I know at some of our meetings, they've talked about the nightmare expense of a vessel that sinks in your port and the
Oh, yeah.
cost of remediation and removal. That scares me about those lower limits on both those.
It's my opinion, I'd like to have the staff develop a new resolution eliminating historic vessel off of this document.
Okay.
And that's not set in stone, I'm asking the commissioners, anybody else have a say, anybody like to speak up?
Yeah. Right now, I don't have a real strong understanding of what the original motivation was, so.
But I think the original motivation, Bill, was because of the otter.
It was.
Yeah.
Steve Luskin come to us, and
See, it's 100 years old.
Okay.
he said, because he didn't realize that the Otter had a 200-pot crab permit on it. It is a commercial vessel.
Right.
He said, and I've made a provision in here for the Otter, calling it a historic vessel. And I looked him at the meeting on record and said, you don't have to make a provision, he's commercial anyway.
Okay.
But,
Now, does he still carry his commercial license?
oh yeah,
And he's still paying the commercial?
yes,
I mean, I know the old feller, I guess.
Yeah.
He probably is. He's very happy to even take it out every now and then.
Okay,
yes.
okay, so it was a solution, a problem that didn't need solving, and the language got in there.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And at the time, we were struggling with the fact that Dave brought up of port managers. I think Mike could elaborate a little bit on that, but the bottom sentence in his proposal said the port manager has all say. Well, Mike even said, why do we need the rest of it? You have all the say. So
Yeah, that's what it was.
we arm wrestled over
Yeah,
that.
and
we
then you
come-
get into the subjective calls and all of the
It should be.
controversy that it,
But there still may be controversy with commercial vessels coming in and being active, because
There are still some out there 50 years old that are really working.
Well, there's a lot of them that are actively a commercial, well, they have a commercial permit, but they're not actively fishing.
What's it cost what's the least cost you get for some commercial permit?
I think it's about $100 now for a NOAA permit to fish tuna.
Tuna.
Right, so that's what they're talking about.
And,
so it's just, in some cases, it's a game being
Sure.
played to.
Just,
Yeah.
it's like Kelly talking about these guys coming in, paying an $8 rate and
Yeah.
camping. They're just, they're not being honest.
Yeah,
so if there's a provision in this that somewhere about the boats, if a boat is inactively fishing, should the port manager be able to approve moorage?
Let me answer that right here. It says a commercial vessel is any vessel engaged in a maritime
Right.
trade,
It
the
is.
fishery, or carries passengers for hire.
That's
Mm.
number
If they
5.
don't, that's your call, David.
Well, that provision, I think that
but
was,
it's this license thing that, where they pay $100 license, but they have no earnings whatsoever from commercial.
Are they
Fishing.
engaged in a maritime trade?
Well, it
Do
depends on your definition. If the definition is, I've got a commercial permit, even if I'm not using it, I'm engaged in maritime trade. I mean, that's,
See, the argument, last time we had this, one of the things that came up was, well, fine, let's make them show us landing receipts,
Yeah.
to prove that. I mean, that just went on and on and on, we just kept,
now, what was wrong with that argument? I kinda like that idea, but, there's,
that's where the Walt thing came in,
Yeah.
probably,
Yeah.
is the historic vessel based on the Otter.
I mean, if somebody
His
is,
landings.
I don't know that.
shows no income, they have a permit, that they get to buy for $100, but they show no income, then there's a game being played. And so we need language that prevents the game.
I don't think there's anybody sitting in this room right now that can't go down and look at a boat and tell if it's actively.
If it can move or not.
I mean, if it's got commercial poles on it, it's got, commercial gear, I mean, there's,
But if it never leaves port,
and it never leaves,
Well, a lot of these never leave port.
well, then it's not engaged in a commercial endeavor. So
So
who
how-
makes the call? That's-
So how tough, I mean, I don't wanna make it any tougher on the port manager than they have it, whether it's this one or any other one. And, because they're, they're gonna end up right out here.
Oh,
and
yeah.
both of us throwing mud
It would
and
be
having a
nice
big
to have
fight.
language that,
Yes, it would be.
that David could refer to so
we
that,
can come up with,
Well, to me, David, if you put the word actively engaged in a maritime trade,
yeah.
Yeah.
just one word there, at least you can say you're not
and,
active.
and then that,
So,
language in there that it could be, that may require showing landing receipts or whatever.
Well, that's right, like Terry said, you could put actively engaged in there, and then you could take away the historic vessel, and number 5, take away the historic on that.
I know, so,
And you're
what
done.
is active? You're right back to what's active, because, for example, the otter could cross the bar 6 times and not bring anything back, have no receipts. Hypothetically, is he actively out engaging in that business? How do we determine that? You're not gonna do it with a landing receipt.
But you do
I mean,
need,
I mean,
you do need some
And I'm not-
objective criteria.
there
I
seems
don't know
to
what.
be that we have to nail that down. I honestly don't want it to be a human's call.
That's right.
That's right, it needs to be in
I don't
black
either.
and white.
Because then you get
It's
into.
too tough on one man.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is. It's gonna be tough on our
Well, then you
manager.
get the arguments. How come you let this guy do it and not, what criteria you use for John over here and you
You know
didn't
how
use
we
for
sit
Jim?
here every month, I mean, it hasn't been so bad lately, but we have sit here so many times and listen, I mean, everything we say they rip apart. So this has to be, pick it up, look at it, oops, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry about your luck, dude.
I would like
I
to
don't
have
know how
a,
that would be, but,
something.
That's what we tried to do with
objective.
Luskin
I know.
before, is it's gotta be black and white,
I know.
no human can make the call.
yes, because we don't want that kind of
do
latitude,
other
it
ports
comes
do
back
it,
to
Dave?
bite us all the
Yeah.
time.
Do they have the
And we end up
resolution
doing
that
this kind of
defines
stuff,
commercial
changes.
vessels?
Are there other
Yeah.
ports that have wrestled with
most-
this and have
most all of
language
them
that we
do.
can use?
Yeah, most Gulf ports have a definition for commercial vessels.
And it has a criteria, it's not subjective where the port manager makes it go, yeah, you're not commercial, you are commercial. It actually has criteria that they use.
I can look into that.
I'd like to see
That'd be
criteria.
good, Dave, because it'll keep you out of trouble
Take the pressure off
all
of you,
the
man.
time.
Yeah,
And it'll keep us, it'll help us too.
So sorry, those are the rules. And just,
David, I think that's what we'll do, is have you make a few phone calls.
okay,
If you know the intent, can you come to us with a resolution?
okay.
something that takes
Because I
the
think we can
subjective
take that out,
nature
the
out of it.
historic thing and everything, we can take care of this, we can
Yeah,
do a
the
new
historic can
resolution.
go, but then we can put the other language in.
Historic was, I'm
Yeah,
surprised that no one else has taken advantage of it.
Well,
We'd be
that's-
stuck with a bunch of 100-year-old boats.
Well, somebody will start reading through this and somebody
Frankie
will. Human nature.
Oh, I know, we already are.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we also have compliance with all local, state, federal laws and regulations, port
Correct.
site requirements. And, we have those too. If it's 50, it's 75 years old and it doesn't comply with those, I'm
Right.
sorry, they're not commercial, doesn't make any difference. If they can't move, how can you be commercial?
What if just the operator's 75? Do I get a discount? Never mind.
No, you never get a discount.
We could make a stipulation for vessels that have had moorage with us for more than 30 years, that we could give them a commercial
Well-
rate.
No, then you're picking on,
Well, I think at that point,
you're picking on one
though,
person.
you almost gotta say they're grandfathered in, though. We can't change, can we, Mike? Can we just change the rules on someone and say, oh, sorry, you're not commercial now?
Well, that could be quite a hardship on some.
Yeah, I
mean,
don't think we wanna do that.
I don't know, I don't have an answer for that, but that's a good question too, as of this date.
Yeah.
But I.
See how other ports, if
We
they've
probably should
addressed
look
it.
and see how it's, we're not gonna reinvent the wheel here.
No.
This is.
The only thing I wanna do is get rid of historic. You guys have carried the rest of us. So,
I
I'm
agree with that,
going
just take
with
it out.
Yeah, but I remember reading before I came on the port about the wrestling match over the definition of commercial.
Yeah, I know.
And what concerned me when I was reading at the time was it was a subjective call, and the minute it's a subjective call, then somebody just say, you let Mike get away with it, and
That's right.
and Jim over here, you're calling, you're throwing a flag on him.
Yeah.
So,
David, I think you understand what we want
We
to do.
don't-
We want to get
yes.
non-subjective
We
and get
know
rid of
what
the
to do.
historic.
What's the Coast Guard, find out how the Coast Guard defines it as well, maybe.
That's the definition that,
I'm not so sure the historic vessel,
well, that's what we were told.
Okay, all right.
we were told that.
Yeah.
Damn, I'd like that. I mean, that's, yeah, we were told that by.
Luskin.
Luskin. Oh.
Can we say his name in the meeting?
I mean, yeah, I won't know.
We aren't in litigation with him, are we?
Yeah, I guess. No, we're not. No, not that I'm aware of.
Well,
hush up.
you can tell me the sun was going down, I wouldn't believe it.
Okay, so what are we?
Moving on.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Port Strategic Business Plan, presentation by Meyer.
Oh, yeah, sure.
That's what it says.
Okay. Well, if I brought this up, so we all know we went, well, these two gentlemen were not on the commission when we had our hearings last winter. And I don't know the best method for doing it, but I would like us to begin evaluating some of the issues that were brought up, issues relative to the port and the improvements to the moorage and Terry's blue buildings. No, I'm picking on Terry. The campground and a process, and we'll use the blue buildings as an example, where we have a committee or a group of individuals appointed by the commission that look at things like cost of demolishing the blue buildings, cost to make just a dry camp drive-through, cost of doing actual improvements and what the return on investment is. You know, if we do a full development of the, so a process, and we can't do it in just an hour's worth of special meetings. It needs to be for lack of another term, a study committee that goes in depth, talks about what the costs are, maybe get some experts in. But I would like to have it no more than two commissioners in the study committee, because otherwise the burden of every time you need a meeting, there's a public meeting notice required the minute that you have more than two individuals. So, and again, I don't know, not having been through it before, I don't know what is the best process, but I know that I would like to begin evaluating some of the improvements that we need to make to the campground, some of the improvements that we need to make to the moorage, and how do we get there? We know, David, we know we have to do a strategic business plan.
This whole strategic business plan, I've been lately in contact with a few other ports and managers about it, and been in contact with Business Oregon, and I think they're gonna provide some funding, and they're gonna help us with some process assistance to do all this. And
Okay.
right now, they're starting to send me some names and stuff like that, so it's a big process, and me and Kelly have kind of been racking our brains and going over our most recent strategic business plan, and it's something that most, well, I'm going to say all ports have facilitated. We're actually the only port that has done our own strategic business plan, and
We are the only port that's done our own.
yeah, and we've been in contact with Susie Lacer and met with her and asked her for a little bit of assistance, and you know, because she was a big part of the last one, and she doesn't have time to help us, so you know, I'm pretty sure Business Oregon is going to help us now.
And Dave, would that include what I was wrestling with in terms of a process to do the hard-nosed evaluation
Yes.
and coming up with the return? Hey, you're gonna have to invest this much in this area. It looks like a reasonable return on this investment is.
Our whole strategic business plan is a big part of our funding.
Okay.
So,
I think you're talking in relation to the blue buildings.
Well, the blue buildings are
It could be
part of it, but if
if we prioritize it in that.
We gotta have a number 1, 2, 3, you prioritize 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
4, 5, I mean, it.
Just looking at the campgrounds, and somebody says to me, hey, what kind of decisions do we have to make? Well, we know we got beautiful waterfront sites moving east from our developed camps that are not fully developed. They're essentially dry camps. Okay, so somebody's going to have to sit down with a little bit of expertise and say, okay, it's going to cost you this much to develop the infrastructure for sewer and water and power and cable out to the end. It's going to cost you this many dollars, and it looks like based on your occupancy on these others, here's going to be your return. So you look at what the return is going to be. Same thing when we talked about the blue buildings. They talk about, well, okay, as for instance, $200,000 to tear the blue buildings down, but that develops 24 drive-through sites, and based on a reasonable expectation of occupancy, what's going to be our yearly return on those? Those are the kind of questions that need to be asked, and there's some evaluation and some expertise that needs to be brought in to answer especially the development of the infrastructure and what are the expected costs in this current market. And we know we can really be off. The city is wrestling with their improvement to the 101 project, and their estimated costs were unfortunately way low in terms of.
Well, it's probably good 9 years ago.
Yeah, but
anyhow, what
process?
Dave,
What's the process? Is
what
what
Dave
I'm
is
asking.
struggling with now, the business plan, he's got to get it. When was our last business plan? 5 years ago.
5 years ago, yeah.
5 years ago, and see, we're losing the funding from Business Oregon on that stuff. You know, so what he's got to try to do is find somebody that'll help us do this. If Business Oregon won't do it, and this other gal won't do it, so I know he's been in contact with other port managers to see who's helping them do this, so we can get back on that. First of all, let's get the funding, and then we get prioritized with everything.
And Dave, I like that one little story you told me about the manager of Toledo, who's probably the most senior manager.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He said, no, don't even attempt to do this yourself.
Yeah.
Hire your strategic business plan out.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. I think
And-
we've had that conversation.
Because, I mean, it's a major thing for funding.
Yeah.
How was that, a vote?
What was that? Oh,
It was huge. Go collect some money, Kelly, something big just went through.
Got a one shot.
Oh, yeah.
But I know
was
Dave's
already
been trying to get a hold of somebody to help him out on this thing, because, I mean,
Yeah, it is.
in 5 years, I mean, look at the money that we've probably been losing in the port.
Well, David, are you in touch with the
Yes.
manager of Toledo? Have you got, is he giving you any other names?
No, I'm in contact with Business Oregon right now to get
Okay.
my names from Business Oregon.
Okay.
And they might help us struggle with the process of how
Oh, yeah.
to resolve some of this stuff.
They will, I think,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
It's not gonna be done overnight, it's
No,
gonna take some time,
no.
you know, it's been
No,
5
no,
years since
but-
we did it,
but
you're
we
supposed to
need
do it
to-
every year.
We need to be on an upward trajectory.
Every 5.
It's a 5-year business plan.
No, it's something that we probably should have been on a while back.
We don't want to be known as the campground that's going nowhere or the port that's going nowhere.
We don't, but we're going ahead with that right now.
Any other,
I wanna bring up this letter.
the Crabber? Okay.
What's happened with that?
Oh.
I concur with everything on here.
I do too.
Yep,
And if the commissioners have read this, I mean,
I read through it. Excellent points. I think we need, and Dave, you and I were you mentioned it to me earlier today. we charge these people for a slip, and part of that slip is their front porch there, and if somebody is totally occupying their front porch, they're not getting value, and they're not gonna be very happy, and we're not gonna get the kind of clientele we want for these slips. And and just like the cleaning station, some people do not have good sense about how they use the docks, and they spread out, interfere with other people's use of the dock and so forth.
No, I understand that and the crabber and everything, but this Sophie and everything, I didn't even know who it was. I went down there and looked at it today, and I mean, that's that boat parked right there by Frank F. And it's 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's called a fishing port. If somebody's going out there, if somebody's parked behind him and they're going out halibut fishing at 5:30, they have the right to talk.
They do.
They do have the right to talk, we have the right to do whatever we want to, we're fishermen.
But they also have the right to full use of that dock. And I've gone down there, and they're camped out there. You have to ask them to get through to get to your boat.
See, I don't see that end of it. So,
Yeah, well.
Yeah, that's the part that I was concerned
One of them
about.
here said when he come into dock, there was 5 or 6 people there, they had a grill going, you know, and were using their cleats, their moorage cleats, to tie their crab pots off, you know.
I was there when that happened.
But
I
that
was
sounded
there
like
with
that was
but-
another guy that had moorage there. That's what it sounded like to me. So that's somebody, isn't that a?
No, they were
and then they
crabbing.
slip over?
No, they were crabbing.
So that wasn't the moor, that wasn't a boat there and his friends
No.
there?
No.
He come in to park in his slip, which he did, but he had a hard time off, you know, tying up, securing, because the crabbers were in front of his slip.
I think this might be an issue that we save for an actual agenda item or a work session and talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, because, you know, there are some things, I agree, there's nothing that I disagree with, and there is a problem that needs to be addressed. But I'm not entirely convinced that when you have moorage, that whole dock
Is
is your whatever.
It
and that
cannot be,
nobody's-
because it's only this wide, and you got a guy on this side and this side, everybody has the right to have it, you can't have
Right,
people
and then we
side by
start
side.
talking about crabbing off of that. Crabbing on the south side, or whatever that is, on the river side, those are premium spots then. Because crabbing inside is not the same as crabbing out there. So, I mean, I want to be careful how we identify that stuff. Do we need to do something? Absolutely. In my opinion, the first thing we need to do is get those gates up. That's what we need to do for sure. And I know I talked to Dave, and Dave's struggling with trying to get somebody to respond. I understand that, but we need 3 gates put up there for sure. Because there's other stuff that's going on that are more important to me than those crabbers. You know, such as needles out there, such as people coming in and acting in a threatening manner late at night. People, I mean, there's
Yep.
things that are going on
Yep.
that we don't hear about every day, because I don't live there. Dave lives there, you know, and there's just, yeah, we definitely have some security issues we have to deal with.
Tracy lives there.
And I don't know that the city is, you know, they have their own problems, and I don't know that they've increased their presence much at all, but it's not.
They actually have, Mike.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear
I've
that.
definitely seen
But there's-
I think they have too.
There's just some stuff going on there. It's not just the crabber. To me, the crabbers are the least of our problems in reference to the docks. So they're a problem, yes. There's no question about that. Nobody should have to deal with somebody that's living down there in a boat. Nobody should have to deal with people coming down, throwing their pots alongside their boat, tying up to their cleat, you know, on the insides there.
Do we have signage that dedicate certain areas for public and?
No,
not
not
even-
yet.
We don't have
And that's
any-
what-
We don't have signs that say that it's not.
Because
But then- yeah.
like at Winchester Bay, for instance, there are docks that are designed for public.
Yes.
And if you moor your boat there, you know darn well that there's folks gonna be walking out to the end and crabbing, and it's gonna get a lot of activity, and then there are docks that you can have your boat on where there cannot be public crabbers and fishermen and.
Right.
Well, if you get a chance to read this letter, each one of these has their own little Winchester, Salmon Harbor,
They
Newport,
all do.
Brookings.
Yeah.
They're all just a little bit
Bit
different.
It's kind of like one there talks about fishing. When you moor there, you fish off your boat. You know, I mean, one of them, and I was like, whoa, okay, I see.
Yeah.
That. So they're thinking at the same term. It's kind of, I just don't want a December, I don't want another issue, I don't want
Yeah.
any more special,
Yeah,
we
that's-
just have to be careful how we approach it. I agree with Dave, I think we need a work session, well, I just got it today,
I did too.
you know, and it's like, I kinda wanna think
But the
about
thing
it.
about this is Sophie's sitting here, and that's who this is wrote by. What is it, 2 months out of the year?
2 or 3.
Yeah, vacation time. The rest of the time, it's okay. It's just
It
when
is.
people come
It
down.
is.
It is.
It's a busy time of
But the
year.
other
it
way to
is,
look at
but I
that is
mean,
where we
what
keep
you
them
don't
out
wanna
2 or
do
3
is-
months.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't wanna, you're saying that they have the right to each dock, but if you have a boat on each side, the dock's only 8 foot wide, so you got 4 foot. If you got 4 people, somebody has the right to have all the people he wants to, 4 people off his boat standing on a dock.
We just need to.
Yeah, you know, and if they wanna crab off that, they can crab off it if they want to. And it's
I'm
only
not
gonna
sure
be.
if you're against it or for it.
Well, I'm right in the middle.
crabbing is all.
No, because I have a slip down here, and I crab off mine.
I'd kinda like to maybe, you know, let's come back and talk about it.
But a good point would be that you crab off of your boat.
No,
not off the
I can
docks.
crab off the dock too.
Pardon?
I crab off the dock.
I know, but we could convert that to say that you crab off your vessel.
I can see that, yeah, you tied it a cleat to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we do need to have a work session, but in the meantime, Dave, I'd like to have you consult Oregon Marine Board and see if we can open up
There you go.
Yeah,
I
that's a good
already,
That's a high
west
priority.
portion.
I've already been there, and I've contacted the Oregon State Marine Board about our transient dock down there. And that grant was a boating infrastructure grant, and we got that grant for $641,000 to put in that dock down there. And it's federally funded for one specific user group, and it's paid for by marine fuel tax. That designation of no crabbing, no fishing will be there for 20 years. I mean, we have to enforce it. It's for people traveling up and down the coast with their boats. That's what it was designed for.
Okay.
So when I'm down there today and I see all these crabbers along it, they're not supposed to
They're
be
not
there?
supposed to be
No.
there.
Is that what we're
It's,
talking about?
it's
That's
from
when-
from Moe's West,
From Moe's West.
basically.
They can
Oh,
be in
no,
front of
I was down there today and there was 6 or 7 people.
Oh, yeah, they're there all the time.
So they're
I'm in
there
and out of there all
all
the time.
So,
Fish the river all the time.
We
well,
always
we
say-
just can't, we certainly can't post it.
We've got signage up down there that says,
No crabbing.
no crabbing beyond this point.
When you walk down the walkway, Moe's
And then go west.
Right.
to the right is,
Yeah, I was down, I
Whoa.
went down to see this boat, I wanted to see where it was
But
located.
from Moe's to
Yeah, I walked down
ICM,
there,
where the
so-
hoist is to there, that's open for public
Public,
crabbing.
yeah.
Well, that just goes to show you that when you read these kinds of things, you know, the data they put in there, because there was a statement in there indicating that it's been said by someone that they would
And
work
so-
with us.
So I checked into it, and no, it's,
Yeah, I saw that.
It's easy to say that kind of stuff when you're writing those kinds of
I've
letters.
read this 2 or 3 times. I'm going,
well, that was a shot. I was hoping.
Well, so was I mean, it doesn't, it's sad that we have that length of dock
Well-
there that can't be used.
Well, fortunately, what we can do is we can post it. We just have a hard time enforcing.
Enforcing it.
Yeah.
Enforcement's the biggest thing right now. Because it's hard for Dave and these guys to enforce any of
No
that
sense in
stuff.
saying anything about it, just post it and move on.
But
We don't have any other places.
what about a limit? Some of those guys, I mean, they come down there with their golf carts with crab pots and bait. You've seen them, everybody's seen them. Why can't we eliminate that? If they can't pack a ring down there, why do we have to have their wagon on the dock? It's a falling, a tripping hazard. Why can't we limit the number of crab pots they use?
see, this is gonna take more discussion. than-
Well, you know, and it's the same way with bringing something down there to cook them with, really?
That's already not allowed. That's not allowed.
All it was,
use of the dock.
it's an electric fry pan he plugs in off his boat. And he cooks 2 crab in it. You know, I'll tell you who it is, it's Zach from, he drives one of the 47s from the Coast Guard. It's senile. That's where all this happened, when the guy come in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't nothing major.
Yeah. It wasn't a half a keg or a keg full of hot water.
No, it's this little 12-inch electric fry pan.
Yeah, things get sometimes exaggerated maybe a little bit. and-
In fact, I
because
walked
we're
down
not
there and
all
gave
there
him
to
another
see
one,
it,
and I
it's
said, now
hard
you
to
can
tell.
cook four crab. I didn't know this was coming. I mean, I'll be
Glad
honest
we have
with you.
Craig here to keep us straight, keep us informed. Okay.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, it was just one of those things. I mean, it's no big deal.
Anything
Let's keep
under-
it simple though, as I like.
Anything under new business, old business?
No, not that I have, I don't have anything.
Any reports? Craig, Mike?
No, I think I
No?
did my piece.
Now,
Someone's gotta give some reports here.
Reports, okay, fishing right now is pretty slow, the ocean was good, the ocean was good, the coho, you know, we cut 60 and kept, 6 in the last month and a half, cause they're all fin clip, I mean, all wild. The river out here is getting better, the high tides right now, fish in the evening. There's been some 21 pounders, some 22 pounders coming in, late in the evening, that's it,
In the river.
in the river. It's hard to fish out there. This morning we were out there, I think the Coast Guard's pretty spooked now with the two things that happened last week. They wouldn't even let us buy the tower in a 21-foot boat and it's flat. You know, we had to come all the way back to A6, so you can't fish in the morning. I mean, they're just, hopefully they don't get gun shy. But, don't you think? I don't know. It's foggy, they aren't gonna let anybody out anymore, I don't think. But they had it to 30 foot this morning, and I mean, that ocean was just flat. There was nothing even coming in the river.
Just the fog.
Just the fog. See, that guy Monday, he went out there and he got caught in the fog and he put it on the beach. He didn't roll it, but he just put it on the beach.
Oh, so we had another incident, okay.
20-footer.
He didn't have any,
He ain't nothing.
didn't have GPS chart.
Have you got a picture of it on your?
It's pretty,
And he went out.
Yeah.
I don't even think he tilted his motor up.
No. I think he just put it in, poof. Yeah. Just like you know a guy that did that one.
I do.
It's a little bit bigger boat though.
Yeah, I have nothing else. Mike?
No, neither.
Good. No public comment? Ron?
Yeah, one public comment.
Sure.
Enforcement. We have a hell of a problem with it, the city as well. But they have retired police that help out at no cost. You guys can find some fishermen that have nothing to do, that you can train to do, there you go.
Yeah,
You can train
volunteer, yeah, you're exactly right.
Two of them right there.
No, I'm not gonna go out there and
No, but there
pack
might
a
be-
pistol and get shot.
There might be others.
I mean, I did that one as in the Marine Corps.
Well, you're well trained.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good point.
No,
It's a hard thing. I mean, the police come to us and say that we have to change our codes because they can't arrest people that are putting vans in the middle of the parking lot and dumping waste in the middle of the parking lot.
Right.
You gotta change, you gotta put the words in to allow you to enforce.
Yeah.
It's real
Well,
important.
enforcement's really tough right now. I mean, that's why all the officers are in the rule of 30, they're all getting out and they're all 55 years old because they don't wanna have to deal with it anymore. You know, I don't think there's a rule of 30, maybe it's even 20 now, I don't know, there's a lot of them that's leaving. I think there's more retired policemen in this town than what you know.
They
The
do
officials.
okay, the police in this town do okay.
Yeah.
But it's
Thank
a
you.
tough job.
But
Good
it's just
point.
tough, it's tough for them to even enforce their own when we're an officer, let alone auxiliary or something, you know?
That being said, I'm gonna close this meeting at 8:30.
Right on.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ron.
Have a good night, everybody.